Welcome everyone. We're going to get started momentarily. All right, for everyone joining us, we're going to get started just in a few seconds. All right, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Connect Plus webinar to discuss the key components of the talent equation: compensation, benefits, and skill development. Next slide, please. I'm Cindy Luxman, SVP of Development Services at OFN, and I'm going to kick us off with some housekeeping tips and an overview of the agenda. In terms of housekeeping, a note that we are recording this webinar. The recording will be available within the next week on CDFI Connect and our YouTube channel. We also encourage you to use the chat function to introduce yourselves, share comments, and interact with other participants. We've allotted 10 minutes at the end of the webinar for audience questions. With that said, please feel free to submit any questions you have in the Zoom Q&A box as they occur to you. In terms of our agenda, we're going to start with a brief overview of some key terms and concepts on today's topic of compensation and benefits. As part of that overview, we'll be previewing new resources in our Talent Recruitment, Retention, and Management Toolkit. We'll then transition to a panel discussion through which we'll dive deeper into how 3 different CDFIs are maximizing their talent equation and end with some audience Q&A. Next slide, please. I'd also like to acknowledge our sponsor. This webinar and the associated resources we're previewing today were developed with support from Capital One, with the intention of helping us build and facilitate access to the tools, skills, and expertise CDFIs need to better meet their missions. Next slide. So during today's webinar, we'll be focused on the talent equation. Why? Well, finding the right people at the right time with the right skills and retaining them continues to be one of the biggest challenges facing the industry. These trends are reflected in the broader economy, and the key to hiring and retaining good people tends to come down to having the right balance of competitive salary, benefits, and skill development offerings. According to various surveys from Gallup, PayScale, and the Society for Human Resources and Management, 59% of job seekers say that an increase in income and/or improved benefits package is the most important consideration when choosing their next job. 4 in 10 employees are willing to leave their current job for one with better benefits. 96% of employees rate compensation as either very important or important to their job satisfaction. 60% of organizations have experienced greater labor challenges, which are defined as voluntary turnover, labor shortages, and difficulties in recruiting talent in 2023 compared to 2022. And they trace the leading cause of these challenges back to compensation. As a result of all these trends, 60% of businesses have reported revamping their benefits packages in the past year. In addition, 20% of workers report that they want their employers to support their professional development. Given that people are at the heart of our industry and critical to ensuring that organizations can meet their missions and their goals, we've created a set of resources, including this webinar, focused on salary, wage compensation, benefits, and HR policies to provide guidance and templates to CDFIs, whether you're seeking to fine-tune your strategy or redefine your approach. Next slide. So how can you access these resources when they get released? You can find them in our growing resource library on CDFI Connect. So once you log into CDFI Connect, you can navigate to the resources drop-down menu, select OFN resources, and then find the OFN Leading Practices resources folder on the left side of the page. You'll see the other resources we released earlier this year, such as our CDFI 101 toolkit and operationalizing racial equity, inclusion, and accessibility into lending practices toolkit. So you can keep tabs on CDFI Connect to learn when we release our newest resources. These are living documents, so if you have ideas or requests for resources that would be helpful to you, please reach out to the Development Services team. And if you don't have a CDFI Connect account, this is your cue to join for free, and we'll share a link in the chat, which we'll also share it after this webinar. Next slide. So the Talent Retention, Recruitment, and Management Toolkit is a growing toolkit that aims to provide guidance as well as actionable examples and templates that make it easy to implement the leading practices shared. For example, since recruiting the right talent starts with making sure you have the right job description, you can currently find a resource on writing effective job descriptions that includes sample language by position that you can use to develop JDs at your CDFI. The toolkit also includes links to recordings of previous event panels and webinars. So if you've been looking for insights on how other CDFIs are managing a hybrid work environment, what it means to have 4 generations in the workplace, or building culture at your org, there's plenty of content to explore. All right, next slide. Over the next month, we'll be releasing new resources for this toolkit via CDFI Connect on the topics of salary and wage compensation, benefits, and HR policies. Our salary and wage compensation resource provides suggestions, sample templates, and guidance on how to develop and refine your CDFI's compensation philosophy, conduct market research and benchmarking to establish salary ranges, think about salary increases and bonuses, foster pay equity and inclusion in compensation practices, and implement pay transparency. Our benefits resource includes a brief guide with ideas for various benefits to implement at your CDFI, a professional development resource list, and suggestions for how to provide benefits on a budget. And last but not least, our HR policies resource will outline key components of HR policies and provide templates for employee handbooks that you can adapt for your CDFI's needs. So before we transition into today's panel, we're going to review some key terms and concepts to level set the discussion. This content and more is covered in our toolkit, so you'll be able to reference this in more detail in the coming weeks. I'm going to turn it over to our awesome head of HR at OFN, Tammy Fry, to highlight a few of these concepts for us. We can transition to the next slide.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Sindhu. So a few things that I wanted to go over first is some definitions. So we have a level set going through the rest of this webinar. And the first is compensation. When we talk about compensation today, we're not just referring to salary. So we're going to break it out into salary wage compensation, which is going to refer to just what you pay in cash to your employees in exchange for their work performed. Then we'll also talk about benefits, another form of compensation that is non-cash. And while it can have some monetary value, these are things that people think in terms of medical insurance, life insurance, and any of the voluntary products that you may offer as a result of them working for you and your organization. And then you can also hear the term total compensation. And this includes cash, salary, and non-cash forms of compensation. So everything that would be direct and indirect that you are given in exchange for an employee to work at your organization. And this can also include things that I don't like people to forget about workplace culture and some of the policies and procedures that you also set that's going to set the tone for your organization and what people receive as valuable to them in the organization. Next slide, please. One of the other things we'll be talking about is leading, matching, and lagging the market. When we refer to leading the market, we are talking about setting your salary and wage compensation levels, including also sometimes benefit levels ahead, over and above the 75th percentile of the marketplace in your region. And this could vary based upon where you are in the US. You want to make sure that when you're looking at where you are, look at the salary surveys, that you are actually going to be looking in your region and as well in your industry. If you want to match the market, we're looking to target 50th percentile of the marketplace for either your salary, wage compensation, and your benefits. If you're lagging the market, this is setting your salary, wage compensation, and your benefits below the 35th percentile is mainly what we look at. One of the things you want to be careful of is you can mix and match this. So you can lead the market in salary and wage compensation, and you can fall below and lag the market in terms of your benefits. You can have a combination. So sometimes you can't always be leading in all areas, but you can try to split this up. Next slide, please. The last area that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of is legal compliance. Make sure you're looking at those federal, state, and employment laws because they can be different. You want to look at the Fair Labor Standards Work Act, Equal Pay Act, ERISA for benefits. Those of you who are going to be providing benefits, they do have guidelines for how you are going to provide compensation, working hours, fair treatment, and how your benefits are structured with your employees. Understanding that states will have different laws based upon the localities and jurisdictions. So if you're a multi-state employer, you need to be really careful and mindful of making sure that you are complying in all areas. Especially too, if you have remote staff, all remote staff in multi-states, it can compound. So you want to make sure that you're definitely looking for some legal or counsel to be sure that you have all of your policies, your benefits set up properly as well. And then don't forget about the Department of Labor as a resource and the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM. You do not have to be an HR professional or certified to be a member of SHRM. You can set up your organization as an executive, as a professional in your organization, and still be able to access resources and benefits to help out with some of those compliance. And they have some really good resources there as well to give you some professional advice. So with that said, turn it over to the panels. Let me do some introductions. The first panelist that we are going to have here is Linda Maria Elia, Chief Administrator Officer of Blue Hub Capital, Megan Fuller, Manager Recruitment Services, Sinair, and Lupita Lourdes Medina, Director of Human Resources Housing Trust, Silicon Valley. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Tammy.
Okay, so we have a great lineup for everybody today, and I wanted to be sure that we jump right in and give some great information and ideas for everybody. So the first topic here, I'll throw out to the panelists. How can compensation packages and CDFIs be structured to attract and retain top talent while staying within budget constraints? And Megan, do you want to start us off?
Sure, thank you. So, of course, when we're talking about how to structure to attract and retain talent, one of the first things in attracting talent is making sure that we understand that the interview process is a two-way process. So when you're interviewing someone to come aboard on your organization, they are also interviewing you as an organization. And they want to know that from the very first touch point that they are valuable to your organization. So making sure that when you're going through the interview process, that their first point of contact is going to be someone who is going to be quick with getting back to them, someone who gives off a good rapport, someone who's really going to sell the organization. And that should continue through the entire hiring process, however that looks. From there, you want to look at your benefits package, of course, beyond just salary. So if salary, to stay in budget constraints, you can't necessarily be at the top of the market, thinking about things, creative ways that you can be competitive compared to other organizations. So some different options that you can look at is things like unlimited paid time off. So that's an opportunity that we offer. So we believe that our employees work hard, so they need to have time for relaxation, rejuvenation, and so we don't accrue paid time off. It is something that when you walk in the door, you have unlimited paid time off, and it's just meant to be a conversation with your managers, making sure that business needs are being met, goals are being met, and at the end of the day, you decide what time you need off. And that's certainly helpful when if you have a family or you need time off for sick leave or just a vacation to relax. So that's some way you can be competitive while still staying in budget constraints. And other ways to be competitive is a lot of people offer retirement matching, but instead of doing retirement matching, you could offer being flexible on what kind of match you're going to do. So you could have a retirement match, you could do a student loan repayment match, or even a 529 plan match. So that might be for someone, who has kids in college. They might be more interested in matching their 529 deposits. And someone who is just out of college might want someone matching their student loan repayments. So there's a lot of ways you can be creative with your benefits, without being too expensive. Additionally, retention is, of course, very important. So having stay interviews with managers, having managers meet with their direct reports and have conversations about what makes you want to stay with their organization. What can we change? Making sure there are clear development plans with your employees so that they know what they're looking forward to, what kind of goals they're setting, and where to move forward from there. And even having focus groups with people, different people in the organization, managers, non-management, about how to retain them as an employee.
Thank you, Megan. How about Linda?
Sure. So I definitely like the idea of providing a menu of options, especially because you're trying to meet people at different stages in their life cycles. And I think since CDFIs are fundamentally financial institutions, we tend to draw on talent from that industry. So compensation overall has to be competitive, and it goes beyond base salary. So at Blue Hub, for example, we maintain a healthy balance sheet in part to provide a comprehensive benefits package to our employees. And we want to be a lifetime employer for our team members, which means providing benefits that fit a range of lifestyle and life cycle needs, and offering the flexibility needed to have a healthy work-life balance. I think for organizations that have budget constraints, it's important to remember that not all perks need to be tied to money. Organizations can provide a variety of low-cost but effective professional development opportunities, especially considering the plethora of online resources these days, lateral growth opportunities, special projects, or simply a flexible work schedule and the option of remote work that allows an organization to attract and retain talent.
Great, thank you. Lupita? Nope, you're on mute. No, I still don't hear you. I don't hear you. Do you want to try to come out and come back in? Okay, while Lupita's coming back and coming back in, I think I'll just double up on communication and talking with your employees and making sure that you have access to information of what your folks are looking for. And when you have the the multi-generation workforce, especially in different parts of the country, there's going to be value in different areas too. And one of the things that we're doing at OFM with a lot of the benefits is going to be looking at them from an equity perspective as well, and making sure that we have a benefit that is available for everybody in the organization, and that it's not just targeting a certain sector. Okay, and it looks like Lupita is connecting again. No, it's still. Well, you know what, Lupita, I'm going to continue with the webinar and continue to try to work in getting your sound. Okay. So the next question here, one of the topics that they cover in the toolkit is related most frequently asked question. How do you know what a competitive wage is? So how do you know what a competitive wage is for setting or process of setting those salary and wage compensations? And what resources do you utilize? Lubna, do you want to go first this time?
Sure. So Blue has been in the process of updating pay bands for all 4 of our active business lines, and we have 4 different business lines under Blue Hub Capital. And we basically request pay surveys from our compensation consultant that draw on both for-profit and nonprofit benchmarks. And then we anchor around the 50th percentile mark, which as a combined figure of the 2 benchmarks allows us to create a competitive pay band for each position. And then we tend to hire between the 25th and 50th percentile of the pay band, depending on experience. And we leave room for growth into the upper end of the pay band over time. And then in addition to that, we offer a comprehensive benefits package that I'll speak to a little bit later. But in terms of communicating pay bands to the team, so once they're updated, I share them with the business unit heads, and we make hiring and promotion decisions with reference to placement within the pay bands, and always with an eye toward internal equity. And when someone gets a promotion, we can provide them visibility into where they sit in the pay band. And we're actively working on career progression guidelines that will help team members understand the skills and expertise they need to develop to get to the next level, with a caveat that there always needs to be an organizational need for the more advanced position, including budget support and justification by the person supervisor that they merit the promotion.
Great, thank you. Megan?
Yeah, thank you. So we do some similar things as well. We do access an external consultant who does benchmark our positions. And so we are able to see where it falls within our industry. We also participate in industry compensation surveys. So as a part of participating with this survey, we provide them information, letting them know, where our compensation is in these different positions. And then we get back the information from everyone who participated in that survey within our industry. So that is something we found to be very valuable as well. And then we also like to make sure that we are paying attention to trends within our own organization when we're making offers to candidates. We keep track of offer letter acceptance rates and pay attention to what jobs are being accepted, what jobs is continually, maybe they're asking for more money, if jobs are or positions that we have given offers to and they're continually being turned down for an offer at a different organization. We want to pay attention to those trends so we can take a look and say, why are they not coming to our organization? Why are they going to someone else? And asking those questions of people who have participated in the process. Why are they not accepting our offers as opposed to accepting someone else? So if we pay attention to the trends that it's happening when we are sending out those offer letters, then we can really see where we might need to make some adjustments going in the future.
So I'll add in that at OFN, we do something similar with the outside surveys. We have an outside consultant who will actually look all different surveys across the country at the positions. And we will also consider total cash compensation. So organizations who routinely add bonuses into their wage compensation, we will, if we don't have bonus structure for those positions, we will build that in so we can try to maintain a source of competitiveness with the folks. But we also, I do the same thing with salary surveys. I will participate in a lot of salary surveys to get a lot of that data back too. That's a great free resource to do it. And going to, the Department of Labor and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, are also great resources too. And following the different trends of some of the Department of Labor on Twitter sounds a little bit silly, but you can get a lot of information when they're sending out their tweets on where to go and the surveys and studies that they've been looking at, and get some of those statistics and pull them down there. Lupita, did you get your voice in yet? I just wanted to give a chance there. So, okay. Anything else, Lubna, Megan, before we move on? Okay. So another question here that we have, what are the key components of an effective benefits package for your CDFI employees? How can it be tailored to meet the unique needs of your organization? And what has this looked like at your organization? Megan?
Thank you. Yeah, so key components of our effective benefits package is, like it's been talked about a little bit before, is that it's having a total compensation package. And we continue to understand that things will change, and we need to constantly be thinking about how do we keep our current employees with us, and what can we add, how can we change it, how can we make our compensation package more equitable. And so we are constantly doing surveys and state interviews and conversations with people within the organization to make sure that our benefits package is what's going to keep them in our organization. So I did talk a little bit at the beginning about some of the unique things we've done, but some recent things that we've done has been things like offering pet insurance. So we have group pet insurance now. There are a lot of people in our organization who are, coming directly out of college. Maybe they don't have children yet, or a lot of people are choosing to be childless. And so they want to have some benefits there too. So we offer them the opportunity to be a part of a group pet insurance program. We have identity theft software that you can sign up for. And so that's something that they pay a little bit out of their paycheck each pay period. But it's something that a lot of people are looking for right now. And they can get it at low cost, and it's easy for them to sign up, and it doesn't cost a lot within our organization to keep that up. We have reimbursement for fitness club memberships. And so we reimburse a certain amount each month. And it doesn't cost a huge amount for us to do that, but it's something someone, a lot of people really appreciate, especially someone who's, already paying those fees anyway, can't get out of the gym membership. So we like to just make sure we're constantly thinking about what is going to be the most interesting to all the different people in our organization. And of course, you have to think about different generations. You have to think about people's different backgrounds, their locations. We are a multi-state organization, so something that might be beneficial for benefit within Michigan might not be the same benefit for someone in Illinois. So it's just making sure we're always reviewing our benefits package, listening to our employees, having surveys, and tailoring it to their specific needs and desires.
Lupita, you're back. Do you want to jump into on a little bit here in terms of the benefit packages for the CDFI and how do they meet the unique needs of the organization? Oh, the cell phone says it's muted. Okay, Lupita, jump in when you can get the sound, but Lubna, go ahead.
Sure. Just to review Blue Hub's benefits. So our comprehensive benefits package includes an annual performance bonus, which is dependent on both the company and individual performance, a 6% 401k employer match, and a variety of unique Blue Hub benefits, including a green health and wellness, charitable gift match, and identity month benefit. And just to explain those a little bit, our health and wellness benefit can be used for a wide variety of physical fitness pursuits, also for mental and psychological health, and can also be used to support the health of family members. With our green benefit, we encourage people to pursue sustainable practices like buying energy efficient devices, taking public transportation, or participating in farm shares. And via our charitable gift match program, we encourage employees to support causes and communities they are close to, and we match the contributions they make to those organizations. And then the Identity Month benefit is something that I introduced in the last couple of years. And we acknowledge a number of different identity months throughout the year, and employees can get reimbursed for $100 of purchases from a diverse vendor, anyone they choose to support. And then we share the recommendations of the businesses or entrepreneurs that we supported with that benefit. And then in addition to that, we cover 90% of health plan premiums, regardless of whether someone is on an individual or family plan. That comes with a health reimbursement account, which covers up to 2/3 of out-of-pocket medical costs. And then we cover 50% of dental and vision insurance premiums for good plans. We have very generous time off and rollover policies and a variety of voluntary insurance plans to cover various contingencies. And I will say that I've been in the nonprofit sector for more than 2 decades, and I've never seen benefits as good as the ones that we have at Blue Hub.
Great, thank you. Just to dial into with OFN, a lot of times, especially since I started with OFN when there was 14 employees and the benefit budget was not as rich as we have it now, where we have a little bit more, we're a staff of 50 at this point, and have more options, because sometimes your employer size will dictate what benefits you can offer. If you're very, very small, you may not have the option to have certain benefits with life insurance, voluntary insurance products, because they have minimums. But I have found unique loopholes over the years with going through employee assistance programs and finding a very rich employee assistance program, for low cost, and having a lot of available resources and information from home caregiving to nurse advocacy programs, financial will estates, and really coupling those type of benefits to cover a large wide range of employees, but at a very low cost, $1,000 for the entire year for a whole bunch of accessible benefits for staff to use. And I think that's something that's really great. And a lot of the employee assistance programs also will allow you to have anybody in the household for that employee to utilize those benefits. And Lupita is back, hopefully.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My apologies for that. Well, when it comes to competitive benefits for us, we're definitely in the Silicon Valley, so it is really challenging to think about the benefits that we can offer and how we can compete. We are a 32 employee organization right now. So we're rather small, but finding the right benefits broker has been critical for us. If you're a small CDFI and you're only meeting with your benefits broker once a year and it's only for open enrollment, you might want to rethink the partner, and you might want to make sure that they are someone who's going to be proactive, who's going to be strategic, who's going to help you think about the value of the benefits that you're providing and maximizing your dollars to get the benefits that your employees need. And it was already mentioned in terms of surveying your employees to understand what they need. But if you have not looked at your benefits in the last 3, 4, 5 years, you definitely want to look at everything that you're offering from, what is your vision package looks like? What is your dental package looks like? Sometimes we don't do that very often. And it is important to take a look just to make sure that you are adding value and you're getting the most out of the money that you're paying. So for us, it's definitely an important aspect. And we try to find a partner that is going to be very proactive so we don't have to do all of the work. So again, finding that a benefits administrator or benefits broker is going to be super key.
Great, thank you. I think that's a great lead in into, talking about what strategies organizations can employ to ensure benefits are accessible and inclusive for all employees, regardless of the roles or backgrounds of the organization. Because yes, who you're partner with can make a huge difference. So Megan, do you want to touch a little bit on strategies that you have there?
Yeah, so we definitely have a really great benefits administrator who we talk to on a regular basis. It's not just once a year. At any time we have a new employee meet, he meets with them and talks through our benefits. So we're in constant contact with our benefits administrator. So I definitely think that that's a really great point on finding a really great benefits administrator. He's been with our organization for close to 30 years. So he knows the ins and outs. And some opportunities for creating access for people within the organization as far as benefits goes is we do have a fully employer-sponsored work-life balance employee assistance program, which offers unlimited access to a master's level consultant, available by telephone, resources, tools online, and up to 3 face-to-face visits with that consultant for help for short-term problems. So any of our employees experience a short-term problem, maybe something they may not come across before in their life. They have someone that they can reach out to and ask questions to and get resources, and they can move them forward on what step to take next. So that gives opportunity for everyone in our organization, no matter if it's a geography thing or if, depending on what your background is, where you live, it gives equal access to everyone. Additionally, we have a wellness resource type folder where people can go and access some of our resources that we put in there to say, certainly COVID was a big example. We were putting resources in there on how to stay safe and healthy with COVID going around. And that's a resource folder that we use for a lot of different things. But having one central hub where everyone can go and access these kinds of wellness resources. And then, in addition, we have a big place on building a culture of trust within our organization. And when we create trust within the organization, people feel like they're valued. So building a culture of trust can be seen in, like, we offer unlimited paid time off. We have, flexible work hours can be an option. We have a remote work policy where it's mostly a conversation between the manager and the employee and what makes sense for that position, and have the opportunity to work remotely. And when you kind of build that culture of trust, then you can give equal access in benefits.
Great, thank you. Are there specific skill development programs or initiatives that have proven successful at your CDFIs, focusing on professional development, training? Lubna, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, in terms of skill development programs, last fall, we launched a managerial training program at Blue Hub focused on capacitating effective managers that are inclusive and equitable in their approach and who really understand how to drive their teams toward organizational goals. We meet every month to explore the managerial tools that were introduced last fall through a series of workshops. And thus far, we've done targeted trainings on topics such as giving feedback and effective delegation, especially with an eye toward equity and inclusion when you're delegating something. And I truly believe and have seen from past experience that organizations are most effective when they have a strong managerial team in place that knows how to steward their teams and motivate them toward goals. And it becomes much easier for executives to focus energy and resources on organizational priorities when you have the buy-in and understanding of middle management. And then another thing that, I think that we encourage is, I think mentorship we have seen is critical at every stage of a person's professional life, not just in the early days, but throughout. And I don't think that mentorship necessarily has to come from within an organization. For example, Blue Hub encourages employees to use a portion of their time to get involved in civic engagements, whether that be external governing or advisory boards, because by doing so, they can grow in leadership skills and learn things that benefit our own organization. And just as an example, some of the most beneficial networks I've been a part of are ones that I've sought out myself, whether that be attorneys, HR professionals, operational leaders, et cetera, to build a better understanding of how to do my work and to be able to benchmark against other organizations. And I think the fact that OFN recently launched this HR and operations community has been extremely valuable to my team at Blue Hub.
Great, thank you. Lupita?
Yes, so we have at Housing Trust, we have heavily invested in designing and implementing our robust onboarding process. We have a 90-day onboarding period that is really where we partner with managers to try to identify like what is the type of training that our new hires need. How are we going to make sure that we're setting them up for success in their role and within the organization? Many of our hires might not have experience working in CDFIs. They might or might not have experience in affordable housing. So introducing them to the industry and making sure that they understand how their department functions, the organization functions, the industry functions, and getting them pampered with a lot of support during the first 90 days versus throwing them to hit the ground running has been really, really critical for retention efforts. So we invest a lot in there. Similar to Blue Hub, we have management cohorts. So since last year, we have been heavily working with our managers. They're both the biggest asset and the potential biggest risk to any organization. And they're super critical in retention, in hiring, in the employee experience. So making sure that that there is a management framework within Housing Trust and that we're very intentional about the employee experience has been very, very critical in how we're doing skills development, both for managers and for all of our new hires. And professional development, it's a part of everybody's work plan at Housing Trust as well. We want to make sure that everybody is investing in developing and growing.
Great, thank you. Megan?
Yeah, so we're lucky enough that we have a dedicated staff member who is a director of talent and learning development at our organization. She has been doing this role for two plus years now, but she's been with our organization for close to 20 years. So we're really lucky in that she's able to take time to look and see what kind of development and training plans will help to make our organization successful. So obviously not everyone's able to have one dedicated staff member to do that, but some of the different things that she does and with our staff, with our managers, is that they create a curriculum for all of our different departments so that when someone hires on, they have a specific training onboarding so they know what they're going to be doing each week and what they're going to be learning about. So that is deployed from that department. They have a buddy system. So we have like a new employee will have a buddy that's assigned to them within the first or for the first year. And with that, they have someone that they connect with, someone who brings them into the culture of the organization. It's not necessarily a mentoring program, but it's just someone to help them feel comfortable, someone they know that they can reach out to if they have questions and they're not sure who to go to. Some other things that, are outside our, that's professional development and people really enjoy is we have book clubs within our organization. So once a quarter, we have a book that has been predetermined, and we read that book, and it's, entirely optional. And then we get together and discuss the book. And that book often has something that's going to be related to our industry, something that impacts our industry. And we all vote on which books we're going to read, and that's something that really gets people excited, and then also helps for understanding a little bit more about our organization. We also have some software that we use for goal setting. Goal setting is really important when you're talking about training and development. Having a specific goal or specific goals for your department and for individuals, so that they have something to work for and work towards. And we have a tool that they can actually enter in all their goal setting, whatever they're working on, and they can track, when they're having one-on-ones with their managers. That software also contains learning modules. So if we ever have a learning module that needs to be assigned, it can be assigned right in that software. So it's all housed in this one software that has been really helpful. And one other thing I will talk about is we do have a core management team. So all of our kind of middle managers do also have a cohort where they can meet. We'll meet as one large group once a quarter, and then we'll break down into smaller groups to discuss, things with concerns, things we have questions on, and we just kind of set the tone on what do we want to learn about, what do we want to know more about, and can create a plan based off that.
Great, thank you. Before we get to the final question, I want to circle back to you, Lupita, just for a moment, because you're in California and you have very interesting wage laws in terms of wage compensation and salary transparency. And there are a lot of states that we reside in that are actively pursuing, if not have already, put in salary transparency laws and mandates. So if you just want to touch a little bit, because we missed you with your sound, just circle back a little bit to the wage compensation, set of those wages, and how the salary transparency plays into all of that.
Sure. So Housing Trust started work around mostly anchored on DEI, and as part of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we wanted to be more transparent with salaries. When I joined Housing Trust back in 2021, they were already including salary ranges in all job postings. So that made the transition a little bit easier. However, when I came on board, I realized that as we were posting and sharing our postings with our staff members, they were all of a sudden thinking, we're paying new hires more, or we're providing new hires better benefits than we currently have. And they wanted to know why. And essentially it was a little bit of misinterpretation, miscommunication type of thing. So we want to make sure that as we are going into this and we are posting for jobs, that we're paying close attention to the job description, that the requirements for years of experience are not paying more to our new hires than we're currently paying our staff members. That our salary ranges are not, sort of designed to pay our new hires more because we want to be very competitive in the current hiring market, but we're forgetting about that internal equity piece. So in California, we have to be compliant both with pay transparency as well as the pay equity is huge. So we're hand in hand doing that work and making sure that we're communicating with our staff members and that they're understanding what our salary ranges are, where they fall within that salary range, what benefits are, what their benefits essentially are. Something as simple as saying 3 weeks of paid time off versus, 3 business weeks or 15 days. You might think that it's not critical, but employees are paying close attention. And you don't want to disincentivize your current employees. So you want to communicate ahead of time. You want to make sure that they're understanding your salary ranges, as well as how you're putting your benefits out there and how you're trying to attract people, so that you're, again, not disincentivizing your current staff. You want to be able to retain, you want to be able to hire, but you most certainly want to be able to be proactive in your communication, because it takes a lot more time when you have to go back to the trust Megan was talking about. If you break that trust, it's going to be really, really hard to retain your people. So clear communication is going to be key when you're engaging in pay transparency.
Great, thank you. So wrapping it up, what's one change you're looking to make or that you have made to your talent equation that has been transformative for your organization and that you think everybody here on this call should consider at their own CDFI? Lumna?
Sure. So in a group that I run of Boston area COOs, we recently had a fascinating conversation about how to navigate generational differences in the workplace and get folks on the same page with regard to expectations for career progression. And I offered up that I think one way to bridge the generational divide is to help middle managers especially understand and communicate to their team members what an organization needs to consider when it comes to pay and benefits, which often comprises about 60% of an organizational budget, which I did not know until I had to manage an organizational budget. And I think it's important to communicate that promotions have budget implications for the responsibilities of the team member receiving the promotion, as well as what it means for other team members, and equity implications. So I think when people understand all of the things that a leadership team has to consider when making these big decisions, it helps to bring them along. It helps them to feel like they understand the bigger picture. So I think that that's an important piece in bridging generational divides in the workplace.
Thank you. Lupita?
Yeah, I think for us, when I joined Housing Trust again, HR functions were distributed amongst operations, accounting, and with different people in the organization. So over the last 2 years, with a dedicated HR person, we have been able to really look at our hiring practices or compensation or management structure. We pay a lot of attention, as I in terms of how we're doing onboarding, in terms of equity, in terms of processes, in terms of consistency, improving the employee experience overall in order to be able to both retain and attract. And we anchor heavily on the fact that we are an organization that is doing amazing work for our communities. And we know that people care for mission-driven work. So we have been highlighting that in order to attract people. So I would say that over the last 2 years, that equation has really allowed us to create a better employee experience, to improve our retention, to improve our management practices. And it's doing work that it's sort of shifting from that reactive mode that COVID kind of forced in all of us, to really getting proactive and getting ahead of the game when you're thinking about how you're hiring, how you're onboarding, how you're training your managers, how you're thinking about compensation. If you're doing all of these things in a reactive way, you're doing it in an environment that is very stressful, that is not allowing you to think clearly. You're not doing it for the right objectives. You're not doing it for the right reasons. So reshifting and doing it more proactively so that you can really take a look at why you're doing this, I think has really been a game changer for us. And it's put us in a much better position where we're not only hiring someone because we need someone, we're really hiring the people that are going to add value to the organization and that will continue to do this work for many, many years to come, not just for the next 2 or 3 years.
Great, thank you. Megan?
Yeah, so I would say that the biggest thing that has made a big difference, and it's something that we'll continue to implement and look at, is training. Training your managers on how to interview people, how to create accurate and effective job descriptions, using the toolkit that OFN is putting out. Training managers on the hiring process, how to have a thought through onboarding process for new hires. one of the top reasons that people leave the organization in the first year is because of not a good onboarding process. So making sure that they're trained really well, and then continuing to train your employees, to train your managers how to have conversations and create effective development plans. Make sure that employees are excited about coming to their job and know where they might have a future within the organization. And then, of course, having an opportunity for employees to feel like they belong. Belonging is a huge part of having employees who are happy within their organization. And part of that is training people to know how to help people feel like they belong, because we are all very different people, and not everyone wants the same thing out of their job that another person might. And to think about it that way. And so I would say training and belonging.
Great, thank you. Question and answers. So I'm going to try to get 2 questions with 1 answer. When you answer the question, can you also just quickly share how big your organization is? People have asked that. The first one here is, many companies tout their corporate social responsibility strategies as a tool to retrain, attract talent, particularly those in Gen Z and millennials. Do you lend any credence to that approach?
So at Blue Hub, it's interesting because we're all, at CDFIs are fundamentally mission-driven organizations. So, so the question is, what's the layer on top of the fundamental mission of the organization that people want to see you kind of be proactive about? So there are 2 things that Blue Hub does very well. I think one of them is to support a number of community organizations that do related work with grants for different events. Like we help support different kind of charitable events. Organizations that are led by people that we know and work with on a regular basis. The charitable gift match is meaningful for that reason, because we help support organizations that our employees already feel passionate about. And then I think this opportunity to use a portion of work time to get involved in civic activities is meaningful too, because then you're using your time and your talent to contribute to kind of community and organizational needs outside of Blue Hub, and you reap the benefits for yourself and for Blue Hub as well.
And can you share your staff size?
Sorry, yes, it's about 40 full-time employees currently.
Great, thank you. Lupita, Megan?
So I'll add, so we have 150 people in our organization, and just like Lubna said, with us being a mission-driven organization, that I would think that that's, one of the things we often get asked in interviews when we're interviewing people is, kind of that connection to mission. And I have found that the people who are most successful or most successful in our organization are the people who are connected in some way to that mission. And when we have conversations in the interview process and you don't see that conversation about mission, it makes you wonder, how they're going to do in the organization. And certainly we have programs where we have what's called Snare Cares, which is a matching program where if you match or you take a certain amount out of your paycheck, the organization will match that. And then we decide as a organization voting on where those dollars are going to be spent. So the staff is a part of deciding where those dollars are going to be donated to. So I do think that is something that is certainly a way to attract talent, for sure.
I would say for us, again, it's the work that we're doing, as was already said, is mission driven. Finding the people that are aligned to that work is super critical. And one of the things that we do as part of our interview, as part of our introductions, is we ask our members to share with people why they're here and why this work is critical to them, because we're also trying to find people who feel connected to the work that we do. We feel that we have a better chance at retention. As of right now, on and off, we would have events where we're participating with our developers, and we volunteer for one day to put in sweat equity to programs. But that's pretty much what we're doing. But again, like it is really already embedded in what we do and why we're doing affordable housing. So we heavily anchor on that as part of our recruitment and retention efforts.
And what's your staff size?
32 right now.
Okay, great. So next question, there's a few of them combined into one, but we're looking at performance bonuses that are not directly tied to volume performance, something that would be very quantitative in nature. Specifically looking, anybody have programs or resources for administrative support staff bonus programs?
I'm happy to address that. So at Blue Hub, as I mentioned, our performance bonuses are an annual benefit, and it's dependent on organizational performance and individual performance. But the key there is that the organization, of course, has to have a healthy balance sheet by year end. We budget ahead of time, and then we look at how we're doing at year end. And based on that, then we also look at individual performance, but it's not necessarily tied to kind of lending targets or anything, because everyone at the organization in the variety of positions gets a performance bonus, usually tied to like the kind of position they're, the level of the position that they are in at Blue Hub. And we always take an eye after managers propose bonus amounts. We always take an eye to equity across the organization before we approve them. So we don't tie them to lending goals. We say our lending goals for the loan fund, for example, are X. Everybody contributes to that in different ways. And then people get bonuses based on a equity structure for the different levels of the organization.
And I'll add to that. Our organization is very similar. So we do have a compensation structure that is paid out annually, and that is for everyone within the organization has the opportunity to get incentive compensation. So administrative staff all the way up to the CEO is going to have the opportunity for that. And it's very similar in that someone who is more considered an individual contributor is going to have most of their bonus is going to be on their goals that they set as an individual, as opposed to the goals set as an organization. So it'll be more heavily weighted towards their individual goals. And those sort of goals can be things like special projects that need to happen, but maybe isn't something that's on their regular to-do list. So we take the end of the year, our organization sets their organizational goals, departments set goals from within there, and then within their individuals set their own goals on what could contribute to the goals of the organization.
Okay, we're running short on time here, so we're not going to get to all the questions, but very quickly, I had several questions, Megan, ask about the goal setting software, tracking software that you use.
Yeah, so it's a software called Bridge.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm sorry that we couldn't get to everybody's questions. We are at time here. Sindhu?
Awesome. Thanks, Tammy. And thank you to all our panelists and to everyone for sharing their advice and their insights today. We really appreciate you being here. And so as we close out, I did want to kind of share a couple of things. The first is our CDFI loan fund compensation survey. So a panelist mentioned that they think about when they think about market benchmarking and salary research, that they refer to surveys or think about surveys. So OFN does have, we have a loan fund compensation survey that we do every other year. And so the 2023 one will be out in Q4. So I'm not showing a link to the current one because it's pretty old. It's from 2021. And our leading practices say don't use data that old. So if you're interested or you're looking to benchmark your salary data, we will be putting out a loan fund compensation survey in the next couple of months. So keep an eye out for that. And then in the next slide, please. All right, and then upcoming OFN events and trainings. So we hope that we'll see many of you in person at our upcoming sold out conference in a few weeks in Washington, D.C. If you are already registered to attend, don't forget to check out trainings we've added on our pre-conference day in the last couple of weeks. It includes a CDFI certification readiness training, as well as a seminar on how to unlock the debt capital markets. So if you want more information on that, we'll share a link in the chat, but you can find that information on the registration site and modify your registration to add that on. And then last but not least, we do have a webinar next week. So there's one on mission aligned portfolio management. It's from 2 to 3 p.m. next Thursday, September 27th. Actually, it's next Wednesday. Sorry about that. Next Wednesday, September 27th. So with that, it is time. So thanks so much to all of you for joining us today, and we hope that we'll catch you in person or virtually at a future event. Bye.